When you take a systems approach, which mothers have to do, which engineers have to do, plumbers have to do, scientists have to do, doctors actually don't, nurses do. Nurses have to be on the front line solving problems. Doctors, most of them are robots. In the last year, you've seen these doctors suddenly come out and speak out against this stuff. But many of those people played a duplicitous game. During COVID, they were very quiet. They shut their mouths. After it, when it became fashionable to act like you're revolutionary and radical speaking out against it, now they come out and write books and et cetera. So I don't really have a lot of regard for them. In 2020, you may remember, Jody, I was the first to really call out Fauci. In May of 2020, we ran the Fire Fauci campaign. In March of 2020, I wrote to Trump and I said, do not shut down the economy. Marla Maples got my letter to him, which said, the immune system is a very complex system. The decisions have to be made between your doctor and you because of the complexity of the immune system. Moreover, I'm known as one of the leading scientists in the world on the immune system. I had just given a talk at the National Science Foundation saying it's about the right medicine for the right person at the right time. Forcing everyone to get the same intervention made no sense. And it was my efforts in 2020 which exposed the fact that the government has a backdoor portal into Twitter, for which I was thrown off Twitter for doing that in the middle of my Senate campaign. So we did all the right things at the right time. And over the last 2 years, we've seen all these grifters who basically sat and watched and never took a hit. In fact, profited from waiting and delaying truth. And a number of them are running for president. In fact, this guy I call Vivek the Snake is a Brahmin, big pharma, brown-nosing bullshit. And that's what he is. That's a technical term, frankly, that we should start assigning to him. So they're trying to always wriggle around how you can manipulate people. In fact, as I shared, one of the candidates, the same guy, I call him the brown noser, this Brahmin big pharma guy, Vivek the Snake. It's fascinating. His mother is also a physician. Apparently, the way he made his billions was he bought a drug from GlaxoSmithKline. You may know them, one of the big pharma companies. It had failed 4 clinical trials for Alzheimer's. He bought it for $5 million, had his mother, talk about nepotism, reanalyze the data, one of the failed clinical trials, reanalyze meaning throw away all the people who didn't finish the trial, and then said, oh my God, this drug works, knowing it was a failed drug, and put it into a public company, made billions, sold off a bunch of his equity to make money. And then when the clinical trial was done, knowing it was going to fail, the stock crashed, losing 99% of the value. So this is what these guys do. They're not interested in actually healing anyone. They're not interested in the patient. They're not interested in the suffering of people. Medicine has become a racket, a financial engineering model. Hospital administrators are looking how much money they can make from each COVID patient. The more they put on ventilators, the more money they make. And so if you look at what happens in hospitals, and if you look at how a scumbag like this guy Vivek and his mother did this in so-called biotech company, these are 2 of the many reasons that over the last 70 years, the life expectancy of the US population is going like this. If you have a child today, your child's life expectancy will be lower than you. And this started around the last 60 years, 60, 70 years. And it's the policies of both the left and the right, Republican and Democrat. It's not any one thing. It's been the income inequality. It's been Obamacare. It's been the toxins in the soil. It's been all of these things. I went and distributed a bunch of these flyers at the train station. You can see that's that graph. It's a red line, which shows that the U.S. life expectancy is going like that. The rest of the industrialized nations is that gray line. And they're going to also start following U.S. pattern. But we distribute a lot of these flyers. It goes, the lesser of 2 evils is killing your children. And that graph pretty much says it all to me. As a person who's been dedicated to health and well-being, we're not going to get health as long as you have censorship, which attacks real science. And then you have this bogus science taking place, this attack on truth and science and innovation. And that's why we call our movement Truth, Freedom, Health, because you have to bring together the fight for freedom on the ground, combined with real science and combined with health. I'm 59 years old. That's been the long journey. This has not been something overnight for me. And I've been having to fight injustice my whole life on many, many levels. When the truth of the fact that I invented email went into the Smithsonian, I never wanted fame. People couldn't believe that email was created at a health institution. They thought it came out of the military. We had to fight. I won a major lawsuit defending the fact that I did create email. But beyond that, when I was running for Senate, I was thrown off Twitter for exposing the fact that I had discovered the fact that government and big tech have a backdoor portal. That was in 2020, Jody. And Tucker Carlson knew about it, Glenn Greenwald, and they concealed it. They waited 2 years to suddenly start hyping up Elon Musk, who's still part of the problem. The backdoor portal to Twitter still exists. They haven't done anything. So what you have right now is a very dangerous situation because you have the obvious establishment, the Faucis, the Hillary Clintons, and the Bushes. And now we have the not so obvious establishment cabal, the Tucker Carlsons, with the Elon Musks, with the Joe Rogans, with the booby effing Kennedys, and now all these people that they try to promote, all of them, everyone I mentioned here was pro-lockdowns. Go look at Booby Kennedy was promoting lockdowns in 2020. So was Trump, so was Fauci, all these people. And all of them played the game. The people like myself and you and others who actually in 2020 called us out, were the real heroes. And the important thing that's, I think, fascinating right now is what you see going on is it's all becoming theater. It's all theater. So the Republicans and Democrats act like they're fighting for us. Many on the Republican side, a number of them literally will steal my content and mouth it off as though they're quote unquote fighting the revolution. And the whole goal of it is they have technology now which knows they can read all of these social media posts and they can say, wow, people are pretty upset. They want to break from the Republicans and Democrats. They're done with this nonsense. And they're looking to Dr. Shiva, they're looking to the movement for truth, freedom, and health, which is totally independent. So how do we co-opt that? We're going to have people literally mouth their words, talk the talk. But if you look at their history, they have never walked the walk. You know, the opportunities for people to get really, really wise now. Go look at these people, what they actually did. And I give people the date, March of 2020. What did Booby effing Kennedy do in 2020? He was promoting lockdowns, strict lockdowns, even more than Fauci. Trump did not fire Fauci. Trump supported him. He enabled big pharma. Pfizer's revenue was down to 45 billion. Because of Trump, it went up to 80 billion, and then Biden up to 100 billion. Both of these guys, Trump and Biden, got $1 million or more for their inauguration. Trump claimed he was against big pharma. So we're at a very, very important point where it's time for people to not get lost again. Do not believe what these people say, no matter how good it sounds. And that's the devil. Satan knows how to speak with the right words, but go look at the humble people who are on the ground doing the work. The establishment, in my opinion, many other people's opinion, they know that I'm a brown looking guy. We reach about 500 million people. So they literally went and found this other brown looking brown noser. It's a psyop. And this dude, Vivek, comes out of nowhere. He's a snake. He was all in for mask mandates, all in for vaccine mandates. He's big pharma's brown noser. And so we have to ask, why is he getting so much visibility? The liberal New York Times has him every day. That means there's a PR person and an insider who is all lockstep and barrel. But the most important news that came out was this fool gave $2,700 to Dina Grayson. Everyone should go look her up. Dena Grayson, a medical doctor and PhD, who is the biggest rabid pro-big pharma person, the biggest pro-vaccine mandate person, the biggest pro-mask person in 2016. I've broken from Trump, but more importantly, she's rabidly anti-Trump, wants to have Trump indicted, wants to have him arrested, and that's who Vivek gave $2,700 to. And they have a whole farm league of these people. It was Obama for a while, then they did Trump, then they have Tulsi Gabbard, they have Bernie Sanders. You see, they have a whole farm league of these people who say the right words on the left and right when they know that people are going to break away. When people are breaking away from Democrats and Republicans, they brought in Obama, the hope, out of nowhere. 57% of Trumpers voted for Obama. A lot of the white working class voted for Obama. And then after they used him, because he helped all the big banks, then they had to find the great white hope, and that was Trump. Again, he mouthed a lot of big words, lock her up, drain the swamp, none of which he did. Trump gave Fauci the Presidential Commendation Award for Operation Warp Speed 12 hours before he left office. So to any MAGA person, you can excuse him. Oh, he had to do this then. He was under a lot of pressure. Well, he didn't have to give him a commendation award. He could have given him the big finger and left.
That's right.
But he didn't. So people need to wake up. These people are all the swarm. And then after they used him out, now they need their next gig. They do a casting call.
So I know a lot of our listeners were wondering, where were you born? Because you do talk about growing up in India. Were you born in America?
Yeah, so good question. I was born in India. And one of the things that people need to understand is the Articles of Confederation define who can be a president. You have to be natural born. You have to be 35 and live here a certain amount of time. They never define natural born. Furthermore, what's interesting is the Maryland legislature voted that the Marquis de Lafayette, who was born in France, was deemed to be natural born and all of his heirs. So natural born was never defined. Anyway, fast forward to something called the 14th Amendment, which people need to study. A lot of people probably didn't know what that was. By the way, Article 2, Section 1 also said that only he can be president, referring to men. Therefore, if we just followed that and just remember, that was just the beginning of the Constitution. Then we had the Bill of Rights and we've had many, many amendments. The 19th Amendment said a woman can also be president, right? So the 19th Amendment abrogated the he in that thing. Well, the 14th Amendment made it very clear that you cannot, it's unconstitutional to have a two-class citizenry, a naturalized citizen and a quote unquote natural born citizen, period. So my running for president is radical on two levels. First of all, we're independent. We're running bottoms up. Scientists, engineers like myself are not supposed to run. But the other thing is I am a naturalized citizen. And I am asserting the fact that constitutionally, it is unconstitutional to not allow me to run, which by the way, the FEC has already said a naturalized citizen can run in a 2011 ruling and raise donations. But the more important thing is there's 20 million naturalized citizens. And my point is that it's unconstitutional not to allow them to run. And as a part of that, I've actually filed a declaratory relief suing Merrick Garland, who's a current attorney general, saying, hey, look, when we go to get on the ballot in every state, you should inform all the secretaries of state who are ignorant that I have every right to be and run for president. So we already done that. And I'll be representing myself. I have more luck representing myself when I do it and getting lawyers. So that's the point. It's going to be an educational part for American people to understand. Because if you told the American people that a woman can't run for president, that's what they should say if you use Article 2, Section 1, Clause 5. The truth is women can run because the 19th Amendment was passed. But I think it brings into question, Jody, and a much bigger issue. What does it mean to be a citizen? And my view is the slogan we use is service is citizenship. So have you served this country? Have you fought for this country? Have you put yourself on the line? Have you exercised the First Amendment? Have you contributed something to this country? Or have you just been here, quote unquote, natural born and just milked this country? There are people right now who can just fly into America, have a child and go back. That's natural born. So the deeper issue I think our campaigns bring up, hey, wait a minute, this guy came here when he was 7, created the first email system, has contributed to a multi-trillion-dollar economy, has won every award at MIT, has educated millions of people, has put his life on the line, fighting for many, many things. Is he not what an American means? And over here is a guy who was natural born, took money from Ukraine, and his son was a cokehead, whatever, and that's Joe and Hunter Biden. Right. And over here is Donald Trump, and his son-in-law took $2 billion from Saudi Arabia and used that office to negotiate deals for them. Is that an American? So we're going to have to go back to what does it mean to be an American? Fundamentally, do you exercise your First Amendment? Do you fight for the Second Amendment, the Bill of Rights? And I've done probably that for many, many multiple lifetimes as anyone looks at my history. So that's what this is going to be about.
I like your truthfreedomhealth.com. It's like you said, it's a university, the biological science engineering of how all of us are like interconnected.
Yeah. So what system science shows is that there is a set of fundamental principles that one can use to understand the interconnections between all things. And by the way, you learn that in engineering school. You take a bunch of courses, and I used to teach it at MIT. So when you look at truth, freedom, health, there are 3 of those 9 principles. Freedom, which is really the ability for information, matter, and energy to move. So I can speak to you freely. We can move freely from one state to another. That's the aspect of what's known in engineering science called transport. I call it freedom. The ability to take things from one form and convert them to the other. In engineering, we call it conversion. That's really what truth is, because when you really apply science, you take all sorts of crazy ideas, you apply the scientific method, and you come to what's true. Truth is a conversion process. And then the third of those 9 principles is called structure, infrastructure. If you're creating a country, you need good infrastructure. So transport, conversion, structure, infrastructure. In the world of your body or society, your health is your infrastructure. If you don't have good health, forget it. You can't fight for freedom. You can't even do great science. So truth, freedom, and health represents these 3 scientific principles. So our movement is built on system science. So that's why when I came across this, it was able to combine all my love of engineering, my love of medicine, and politics. And that comes down to a set of principles that anyone can use. So the real issue right now, Jody, and that's why our campaign is so powerful, because in 2020, about 500 million people came to know about all the good work we did. So it was like before the censorship came in. And then when we exposed the backdoor portal, they threw me off Twitter for 2 years. And then the day we got back on, Elon Musk thought I was going to bow down to him. And the first tweet I did was I said, hey, Elon, why don't you make me Twitter CEO? I'm a technologist. I know how to run. You're looking for CEO. That went viral. It got around 20 million views. But the next tweet I did was, are you going to remove the government's backdoor censorship portal into Twitter? And since that time I did that, my views went from 500,000 views a day down to 5,000. But who he promoted were all of his bootlickers, all of the conservative bootlickers, Booby Kennedy, all these people, and they all self-promote themselves. So you have a bunch of social media, quote unquote, influencers right now who are pay to play. The candidates get agencies to pay them off on the back end, even though these influencers will say, oh yeah, I'm against this. And when you present them with blatant contradictions, they're silent. So the good opportunities, the future is offline. If people go to shivaforpresident.com, and I know we'll come back, but I believe in solutions. Since I was 17, I've always been truly a ground activist. I believe a little flyer, this is long before social media, goes a long way. We went and distributed thousands of these flyers at the train station. And if people want to go to shivaforpresident.com, you can go to the downloads and you can get that. Now, why is this flyer important? You see what it says right up there? It says a lesser of 2 evils is killing your children. Yeah. Then we give people the real problem. The fact is they're literally killing your children because life expectancies, your child's life expectancy is lower than yours. Then we have the little link to the sworn forum video, as you talked about, who is doing this. And then we give solutions. Number one, go listen to my video for president. Then understand that we have this movement called Truth, Freedom, Health. And then you can come to our open house. So everything is this little paper.
Yeah.
And what's really powerful about this is this cannot be censored because you're meeting people face to face, one-on-one. It's time to build a bottoms up movement. We know the science of how to do truthfreedomhealth.com. We have my run for president. Go to shivaforpresident.com. Volunteer. We need to get on the ballot in every state. We need your help. Anyone can help collect signatures to get us on the ballot. So anyway, everyone be well, be the light, truthfreedomhealth.com, shivaforpresident.com.